Hello, everybody. It's me again. Um, excuse me. Just thought I would do a little video update. I haven't done one here probably in about a week. I had my daughters over the past week for the last full week during the summer when I have them. So been been doing more evening stuff with them and trying to get to bed at a little bit more of a normal hour than I normally do, just so I can be up at a normal hour. So, but all's good here. Just thought I would like to, again, just like my previous video updates, just thought I would jump in and I'm getting a little furry here. Growing the beard out. It's probably the longest my hair's been in a long time. So, but just thought I would, I guess, sort of talk about what's a little bit current here. So, over the last week, there's been a number of things that have sort of dropped into into the world, probably over the last 2 weeks, really. But we had the UFO thing, the Navy, and the I think I talked a little bit about that in the previous video, the AA tip and the UAV, um, uh, what is it, unknown aerial vehicle program with the Pentagon. So that's been sort of interesting to see if they're going to drop the bombshell that we are not the only people in the universe, and that the vehicles and technology that they've found over the years has been from outside of this world. So I think that's very close. That's coming. Um, I'm sure I'll discuss that a lot more if it starts taking the lead in the news. But let's see. Over the past week, Ghislaine Maxwell, I know I talked in previous videos about her arrest. They unsealed her court document, or not, or they unsealed some of her documents detailing the stuff with the girl, one of the main girls, Virginia. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Giuffre. I think it's like Giuffre or something like that. Virginia Giuffre. She was the one that directly accused Prince Andrew of infidel. Well, not I wouldn't say. Well, I guess it would be infidelity, but of sexual escapades with her while she was 17. She was the one that is in the popular picture. Sorry for blocking the camera. In the popular picture of her when she was, I think she was 16 or 17 in the picture of her standing with him. And again, a lot of people I've seen online say that picture looks like she was having fun and stuff, but regardless of whether she was having fun at the time, or she was being enthralled or into the lifestyle, um, it still can be a traumatic memory. I mean, there's a good old Stockholm syndrome that I've mentioned prior. You're pulled into that life. You're brainwashed into it and everything. She may have even enjoyed what happened, but that doesn't make it right of what the people did to her. Whether Prince Andrew, she mentioned Bill Clinton coming to the house in Little St. James Island in the Virgin Islands. She mentioned him, and she mentioned Ghislaine and a couple other girls who she was directly involved with. I'm sure there's probably boxes and boxes and boxes, rooms full of documents detailing the escapades of these elite people against these girls. I mean, Virginia was not the only one they interviewed. They interviewed others too. And if you watch the Epstein documentary on Netflix, you'll see that. But she's not the only one. So there's probably just tons of stuff out there that probably just needs to be unsealed. Stuff from maybe the original case back in the what was it, 07, 08, 09, whenever he got arrested the first time and got the sweetheart deal where he only had to go to jail for overnight. He just slept in jail in probably his own cell. It was probably comfortable, had a nice little bed and stuff brought in for him. But then the rest of the day he was out doing his business, probably abusing more girls while he was in jail with his sweetheart deal. So it's crazy. I mean, it really is. Um, but so that's that. Let's see what else has come down a little bit. I probably should start writing down some notes to talking points to talk about. But let's see. Yeah, over the weekend, I guess here yesterday. I guess it's yesterday now. Yeah, it's about 1 in the morning. On Sunday, the astronauts that went up in the Dragon capsule with SpaceX this past month, they landed safely. Parachutes in the ocean, everything good. I watched the launch of that on the day of, and it was exciting to see that happen. I watched it all the way up until it docked, um, and then it was exciting after they were up there for about a month to see it to return and everything. So I'm glad all that went well. I mean, it's a major thing for SpaceX. They did the full cycle. They built a ship that can carry humans to the space station from U.S. soil. Got them there. They docked. They stayed. They loaded back up. They came back. They landed safely, and I'm sure the capsule with some rejuvenation should be reusable here for another launch. Of course, the boosters from the initial launch landed back, so they're going to be reusable. So it's really a major milestone for the history of space travel, even though it's commercial, not nationalized space travel. It's a major step forward to our step into the future. So I really hope. I think they're going to be doing I think the what is it the SpaceX the Starship test here soon if they haven't already. I think it was either scheduled for sometime in late July, maybe and sometime or in August here. So that's going to be an exciting one. That's the big stainless steel silo uh, ship that they're going to be testing that can carry. I believe it was cargo and stuff, and then maybe up to 100 people at full capacity. Um, and the goal is to take them to Mars. Probably a lunar colony first, obviously, or maybe even um, a lunar space station, so they can launch from Earth, get into orbit around the moon. I'm hoping whatever rockets that Elon or SpaceX eventually do can run maybe off of a alternative fuel such as helium-3, which is supposedly abundant on the moon. So eventually we can get some factories down on the moon, especially around the polar regions, to get water out of the craters, especially the dark craters at the moon where the sunlight never hits because they're um, always in darkness because they're deep enough to where even when the sun's on the far side, not the dark side, but when the sun's on the far side of the moon, those craters are still in darkness, and there's water ice, actual liquid water ice in those craters that can be melted down and piped back to a base, and then to basically rejuvenate the ships, basically refuel, because water can be used as fuel. I believe it was 2001, 2010 Space Odyssey books by Arthur C. Clarke. The way their ships, the Russian ships, were powered were by hydrogen, or the rocket fuel was hydrogen, but they landed on moons and icy bodies in the solar system. Uh, got the liquid water or the ice, the liquid. I'm sorry, I'm a little tongue tied here. The there's ice and there's like liquid ice. Some ice just evaporates off and doesn't turn to liquid, but maybe it's carbon dioxide or dry ice or whatever. But like water ice um, that they can melt and then through a reaction, which it's not even necessarily like a high power reaction. There's a way to, like on Earth here, they've talked about with hydrogen fuel cells, to get the hydrogen, you can do what's called cracking the water. to where you break up the hydrogen and the oxygen bonds to capture the hydrogen, use the oxygen to, for whatever need it for, but then put the hydrogen in the fuel cells to power vehicles or whatever. But the Arthur C. Clarke had that idea a long time ago, to separate the hydrogen and oxygen in water, and use the hydrogen to basically be a rocket fuel, oxygen to as a propulsion method as well, and then you could also use it to drink, to purify. So it's multi-purpose. Oxygen, you could use it in the ship, for in case your CO2 scrubbers that convert the CO2 back into breathable air um, became disabled. So H2O is a good thing. Water is a very, very important part of life in the universe. So, but back to what I was saying, it would be nice if Elon at some point before we go off to Mars could get like a lunar space station. So a ship could take off from Earth, one of the starships. It doesn't even have to land on the moon. It can just go to the lunar space station, refuel, get additional fuel or whatever supplies or additional personnel or whatever's going to Mars, and then without having to launch again, they can just detach from the space station, break a high orbit from the moon, and then head on to Mars. So that would cut down fuel requirements dramatically, instead of having to land on Mars, because even at 1/6 Earth gravity, it's still a lot of weight that would have to be launched off the moon, and then you would be that much more short on fuel. So if they could, especially if the rockets, like I said earlier, could run off of helium-3, which is a very volatile, very energy dense substance, if they could find a way to use that as a propellant or even just an energy source to power alternative propellant, um, that would be great, because again, they wouldn't have to land. They could just shoot pods of helium-3 from the surface of the moon back up to a space station. The space station can catch it, whether it's a precision catch or just some kind of large net type catch that they could send somebody out to bring it back in or whatever. But then on to Mars, and with the Starship plans, it's very ambitious. But he talked about in the next 10. I'm going to push it out to 20, maybe even more years. If he can build like 1,000 of these starships, we can launch with 100 people apiece, 1,000, 100,000 million. So 1,000 times 100 is a million people. If we can get 1 million people to Mars, I mean that's more than enough for a whole new civilization. You could have the common folk, you could have artists, you could have scientists, doctors, everybody that's needed to run a society. So humanity would become finally an interplanetary species, which should be our goal. Our near term goal is to, don't put all, the good old term, don't put all your eggs in one basket. We can't be doing that. If a comet hits the Earth or there's some cataclysm, pandemic, uh, which we're going through now. If something like that were to take out most of humanity or cripple humanity to the point to where they would have a long recovery, you would still have another splinter, another faction of us on Mars with all the technology needed, and probably even higher technology than people here on Earth. So it's a good thing in the bigger picture. So probably in case of a massive global Earth catastrophe, then the people of Mars would probably have to render aid back to Earth. Um, so that it's a lot to think about. There's so many different possible scenarios for not only positive things, but potential negative things that could happen to either place over the next, again, 20, 30 years, 40 years. I'm really hoping to see it by the end of my lifetime. I was born in 1975. So that gives me a while. I mean, if technology increases and and I'm able to extend my life, you know, gracefully to 100 years plus by the end of my time, then that would be great. I mean, that gives me another 50, 55 years. So I think technology is going to do a lot in that time, even if it's like a virtual body or cybernetic. I hope to be a productive citizen and be able to explore space um, before the end of my corporeal life. So lots and lots to think about. So that's SpaceX and my little sort of vision, insta vision of what they could do. I mean, some probably in his plan, some maybe not. So we'll see. Um, what else this week? There's so much going on. A friend of mine came up with a apocalyptic bingo cards. So we're having a good time going through the news. The bingo cards, instead of numbers, they have all these different scenarios like um, Epstein files released, Q announces, or Q identity revealed, John F. Kennedy Jr. still alive, aliens, sharks with lasers on their heads, um, different things in this bingo card, some absurd, some more probable. And so we've been playing that, and we've got quite a few marks. I mean, pretty much how it works is when the mainstream media are close, mainstream media are close enough, covers one of these stories and breaks it enough to where we can say, hey, this is an issue that was covered in the news. Then we stamp that spot, and we have one or two people that are pretty close. They already have like three matches, three in a row or whatever. So we'll see. I only have one on my card, and that's anything to do with Antarctica, because it was something, I forget the specific story, something that came up in Antarctica that it was anything Antarctica. So I think it was some discovery or something down there. So I got that one marked, and that's the only one I have. I mean, as much as I'm into aliens and stuff, I'm surprised I didn't pick a better card that more matched my interests. But I guess I was very ambitious on some of the far out ones that are on my card. So we'll see what happens. I'll have to post a picture of that in a future one when I mention again, maybe when I get a few more matches. So. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this relatively short. I talked to a friend of mine, and he said I need to try to keep these a little bit shorter so they don't go on for 25, 27, 30 minutes apiece. So this is up to about 18 minutes. Covered a few items, and I'll probably go ahead and post this up. So everybody have a good night, good week. It's now Monday. I like to put the dates on here just for FYI and from FMI. It's 128 Monday, August the 3rd. Goodness gracious. So everybody have a good week, and I'll probably try to do another one here in a few days. Have a good night. Bye.